And we are actually happy to have everyone here. This is one of the things that we try to do to give back to the community by giving these open and free webinars because we can't spread ourselves out too wide because there's only so many of us. Our resources are limited. So this is one way that we feel like we can give back to our community. So we try to do these monthly webinars, as well as we also are doing a monthly lunch and learn. So if you haven't looked at our lunch and learns, you should check out our lunch and learns as well. They're very informative, and what we do is we interview someone in the field that has a particular interest in supporting Black churches and Black nonprofits. And so we've had some pretty amazing people on. And so those would be very helpful for you guys to also attend as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to respect everyone's time. So I'm going to go ahead and start on time. So I'm going to share my screen and show the slide deck so we can all be on the same page. Whenever I do this, it just opens up in the wrong way, and then I'm trying to figure out what to do. Give me just a moment. Can't complain because Zoom, really saved us during the COVID. So I try to be nice to it, but it gets on my nerves every once in a while. Okay, move this out of the way. And once again, I want to welcome everybody to this webinar. And this is about asking for the gift. And it's a step-by-step guide to help you get support from individual donors. And we'll explain what all those things mean as we get through this. And I want to give you a little information of who I am. And I'm Paul Hosh. I am the founder of Nonprofit Fundraising Management, where we're focused on Black churches and Black nonprofits. And our goal is to make sure you have the funding you need to deliver the services your communities need. So that would be food banks, youth programs, homeless shelters, whatever you need. We are there for you to help you do that. And what we try to do is create repeatable pipelines that allow you uh, to be able to sustain your fundraising over time. So this is not just a one-time hit. This is something that we create that just happens over and over and over again. And as you'll see that I have a passion for teaching leaders about fundraising and helping you feel confident in gaining the support that you need. And we're dedicated to doing this. My entire team is focused on this. We have a fantastic mission, and that mission is to support you all in doing what you're doing, because you guys are actually the heroes. We're just the gasoline that goes in your tank. So this is our mission, is to help you do what you do, and we're proud and honored to do that. So let me tell you what this presentation is not. It's not another sermon about faith giving. It's not about begging or passing the plate more often. And this is not about banquets, raffles, ads, or bake sales. It's about modern fundraising. So we go beyond the traditional fundraising. So we don't hope and pray and then it equals the budget. That just doesn't happen. We don't rely solely on tithes and offering. And once again, we don't guilt trip. We don't use pressure tactics, bake sales, or begging. We use modern fundraising, which is very similar to what universities and hospitals do. But we want to know why you're here with us today. So we want to put in a quick poll, and the poll is going to sort of let us know what you're looking for. And that will allow me to sort of tailor this presentation a little bit so that you can let me know what it is you need the most. So we're excited that you're here, as I said. So in order to tailor this, we don't want to know why you're here. And so A is you want to learn how to make effective asks for your ministry. I'm looking for new strategies. B, C, I need help setting up clear fundraising goals. D, traditional ties and offering aren't enough anymore. And E, all of the above. And I actually have to answer this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then Alex will let us know when you've answered these. But please answer this so we can help tailor this towards the majority's needs.
Well, just about everybody has filled only five more. So,
Okay, well, just let me know when everybody has filled it out. Thank you.
all right. Mm.
Um, the cost of doing nothing. I had a presentation last night with a potential new client, and I just told him that this is the cost of doing nothing. And but one of the things you should understand um, at the end of this presentation is whether you look at doing something with someone else or trying to create um, some fundraising on your own, you're going to have to do something different. That's the thing I want you to walk away from. You cannot keep doing what you're currently doing if you want to keep your doors open. And if you don't do anything, you're going to have underfunded program. You're going to have overworked and underpaid staff. Your ministry and nonprofit dreams will be delayed or denied. And quite honestly, your churches or nonprofits will close. And that's just what's happening. As most of you know, churches are the fastest closing institutions in the countries right now. It's been, I think, the last 4 or 5 years that has been the case. And among them, Black churches are the fastest. And the primary reason is you don't have the funding you need to do the things that you need to do. So it's imperative that you walk away from this webinar knowing, hey, we have to do something different. If you don't, you're going to continue to be in the red. So just make sure you pass that message on to those within your organization that needs to hear that. Now, here's the agenda for today. We went through the welcome. I'm going to lay the foundation. We're going to talk about setting fundraising goals. We're going to talk about getting support, making the ask, which is the fun part, overcoming fear and building confidence, following up, which is key, sustaining the work, and we'll wrap it up and we'll talk about support. And then finally, there's a couple free resources we're going to give you, but we're going to give you the information at the end. So there's going to need to be a shift made. And the shift that needs to be made is we're not begging, this is ministry. This allows you to be able to do the work you need to do to change your communities that you're in. And if you don't have the resources to do that, everything dries up. And so what we did was I wanted to show you when we started working with one of our clients in DC, we had to shift their mind. They were like you probably, and they were doing the traditional passing the plate, tithes and offerings, but they were in the red. And so finally, they agreed to work with us in 2003. And in 2003, before we worked with them, this is the year prior. So in 2003, we started in November 2000, actually, yeah, November 2003. Um, and you can see here that they raised 1.1 million in 2003. In 2004, we ended up raising 1.3 million. So there's about a $200,000 increase with working with us. We shifted their mind and we said, hey, you have to spend a little, but you'll get a lot more. And as you can see at the bottom, the individual contributions increased, foundations increase, and investments increase. And the secret is we never really got around to actually doing the ask because there were so many resource constraints. We're running around doing all these other stuff, trying to get things in place. We never actually got around to putting the actual ask in place. The shift that you're seeing here, the $200,000 increase, that was simply the communication tweaks that they did. We added two things to their communications. It's a monthly mailer and a newsletter, and that's the $200,000 bump you're seeing. Now imagine what's going to happen once we start, asking them for gifts. And we just did in a month ago. We had their gala. We raised $125,000. This is a church. And they've never done anything like this before. So we shifted their mind and we got them to believe that you can do this. We just have to do it in a modern fundraising way. And that's what I'm going to show you here today. Now, why are we focused on individual giving? Why not corporations, foundations, and all sorts of other? Because individuals are the backbone of your support. They're the ones that they show up every week, giving you these small gifts. They're giving you large gifts. They're easy to reach, and you're able to create ownership with your individual supporters because you bring them in and they actually become partners with you. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then there is a power in many gifts, and the vast majority of your gifts are coming from individuals. So that's why we focus on individuals. And the biggest reason we focus on individuals is they're the easiest to work with by far, and it's the biggest bang for your buck. And the reason why I said that they're the easiest to work with is because you just call them on the phone. They're in your pews. So you just call them on the phone. You can't just call a foundation on the phone. You can't just call a corporation on the phone, but you can call an individual on the phone and you find out your answer pretty quickly. They're going to let you know if they're going to be able to support this particular project or not. Foundations, guess what? It takes 6 months or so, 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. Corporations, it takes way longer, and they get far fewer funds. If you look at, there's a publication that comes out on an annual basis. It's called Giving USA. They publicize all of the giving in the United States, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but 70% of all giving comes from individuals. I'm going to repeat that. 70% of all donations in this country annually comes from individuals. After that, foundations give about 15 to 20%. After that, bequests and wills are about 5 to 7%. And then after that, corporations give somewhere around 3 to 4%. There's a nerd joke in the fundraising industry where we say wills and trusts. We say dead people actually give more money than corporations, and they do. So really be cautious of going after corporations unless you have a gala or something like that where they can do sponsorships. But other than that, focus on individuals. Foundations are difficult because foundations are the smartest donors out there, and they require tactics. Like they want to know what your budget is. They want to know what your data is, what your measurements are. They want to know how you're going to grow next year. They want to know who you're collaborating with. All these things. Individuals don't ask all those questions. So once again, individuals are the way to go, and they're far more fun. You have lunch with them, you talk to them, you understand what their interests are. So that's why we're focusing on individuals. Now, a fully funded ministry framework looks like donor engagement, and that's where the strategy is focused on meaningful relationships with your donors. And what I mean by that is you're not looking at them like they're just a meal ticket and they're going to write you a check. What you're doing is you're looking at them as though they're true partners, and they're going to walk along with you as these programs grow. And it's a beautiful thing because you have all these people supporting you and helping you, not just with checks, but with their time, with their connections, with all other sorts of things. And we're going to also look at making the ask. That's a part of it. You need to make a clear ask, confident ask, and it has to be connected to the support of what it is you're looking for. And guess what? You need to ask the individual for a specific amount. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. It's far easier to say, well, we'd love for you to be involved. No, that doesn't work. We need to say, would you consider a gift of $5,000 to support this program for the first quarter of this year? So it has to be specific, time bound, and what it's for. And then the follow up. You want to turn these donors into partners, as I said before. So this is a constant dance that goes over and over again. It's just like when you get married. You don't just have a honeymoon and then everything is on autopilot. You have to have dates, you have to have weekly dates. The marriage has to be supported on and on and on for the relationship to grow and become deeper and more. And it's the same with donors. So the key point is you want to approach these donors as though they're going to be long-term partners with you and they're going to be supporting you along the way. They're not just a meal ticket. And what you're going to leave with is a clear understanding of what the project should look like. You're going to leave with a mini case for support. I'm going to send you a case for support so it's going to be in Word, so you can take our name off of it, put your name on it, and use it. And we're going to talk about what the next best step is for you to do after this presentation. And you're going to have an experienced friend that you can reach out to. That's me. So if there's questions you ask, you can reach out to me and call me or email me or whatever, and I will try to help you with it as much time as I can help you with. So the first thing we want to do, step one, is identify a project. So, but before we do this, Alex, do we have the results of the poll yet?
Yes. Let me share them.
All of the above. Okay. That's not too surprising, and that's okay. And making the ask. So you're in the right place. So all of the above. So that looks like I should just cover everything, and that's what I'll do. I'm not overly surprised, but that's great. That's great. So the first step is going to be identify the project. So I want each of you to think about what particular project would you like to put in front of a potential donor? Like, what is it and how does it go along with your mission? So, what is the impact? Be specific. So, when I say impact, how many people will be supported by this project? That's one thing. So, look at that. And how does it align with the mission of your organization or church? Is it a part of the goals with the church? Hopefully, it is. The key point is a well-defined product or project really allows people to support you because they understand what you're asking them for. And there's a timeline, there's metrics, there's communication. So you really need to identify what the project is, make sure it aligns with what you're doing, and you want to make sure that those things are in place. So let's define the project. So it needs to be clear. So you need to articulate what the project is. So say like it's to expand our youth program, renovate the food pantry. We want to build a affordable housing complex, whatever it is. And again, it needs to support the ministry's goal. It needs to be what your overall arching thing is for your ministry or nonprofit. It has to flow with what it is you're doing. And you want to engage your stakeholders. And what I mean by that, your board of trustees, your board of directors, make sure everybody is in line and rowing in the same direction. You don't want to start something and everyone is not in line. And as I mentioned to you a moment ago, I had a presentation last night with a local church. And this is my second presentation. And I have one more. I have one more with the church council because the smart pastor is making sure everyone is on board with the direction that he wants to go. So you want to make sure you engage key stakeholders. Now, you want to talk, as I mentioned, you want to talk about the project's impact. So you want to have measurable things. So you want to say something like, we are going to provide food for 100 families on a monthly basis, and this is the cost. And so you want to make sure it's measurable, it's specific, as I said, 100 families, something that's tangible that people can wrap their heads around. And then also the key point is, why are we doing this? Like, so what? We want to feed. Well, there are more than, so this would be larger data. You'd say, so our city has 5% of our city is underfed. They need the support. So this is why we're doing this. This is why. And many of those people that are underfed, they are our congregants. When we open up the food bank, um, 20% of our congregants are in that line. So you want to connect it so what to what the impact is and the measurable outcomes, because you're going to be reporting these things to the donors. So you want to make sure you have all these in place up front. And the power of story. There is few things more powerful than a story to an individual donor. Foundations, not so much. I mean, they like stories, they like data. But for individuals, they wrap their brains around a story. So the story needs to be compelling, for a specific family or individual or project. You need to put a face to the name on the story of the need. So the story needs to be emotional, it needs to connect to the donor, and you want to make sure that there is a need for support and that there's some urgency. The stories move people, as I said before, personal narratives. They can be far more moving than stats, as I said before. It helps donors to visualize the impact and their connection to the project. And the one thing I also want to say is you want to make sure, and this is hard to remember, so write this down. You want to make sure that you make the donor the hero of the story. And I learned this a while ago. I had a great mentor taught me this. And I was then reminded on one of our lunch and learns by one of my best friends, my brother. His name is Ramal Toon. He's a fantastic storyteller. He's an author. And he brought that up. And I was like, I forgot that. I learned that so long. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So this is an example of a story. I'm not going to follow along this. I'm just going to tell it how I normally tell it. And so there's a student that graduated from this school, and his name is Nick. And Nick, he started as a freshman, very talented basketball player. He was a starting point guard as a freshman. He was a smart kid as well. He had a 4.0 when he first started. And when he was a part of the Black Student Union, he started a scholastic scholarship program within the Black Student Union for all the 3.5 and above to go after scholarships. He was very, very smart. He became the student body president. So he had a lot of things going for him. And so a lot of the supporters like Nick and would, have Nick come over and speak because they were supporters of the school. And one time we were out and Nick said to me, he was an excellent basketball player, excellent. And he said to me, I want to pay for the NBA. I'm looking, my favorite team are the Lakers. And, we would talk about that. A couple of our clients or donors gave us tickets to the Lakers. So we would take him and a bunch of other students to the game. And so as Nick progressed, throughout his career at the high school, he applied when he became a senior to several colleges and universities. And his dream school that he later, first it was USC, but then he changed it to Georgetown. And he ended up getting accepted to Georgetown, which was amazing. And Nick was a good basketball player, but he wasn't going to play basketball at Georgetown. You have to be an elite player to play at Georgetown. And I knew that Nick got a bunch of acceptance letters because we had a scholarship wall of our seniors, and you could see which universities and colleges accepted him. And so Nick had all these different colleges, and many of them wanted Nick to play on the basketball team because he was good, but he wasn't Georgetown good. And so I saw him in the hallway, one day I was walking to my car, he was going somewhere. I said, Nick. And so he stopped and I said, hey, what's going on? So we chatted for a minute. I said, hey, why aren't you going to some of these other schools? I was teasing him because I knew Georgetown was his dream school. I said, why don't you go? They're giving you a full ride to play on the basketball team. I said, because you're not going to play at Georgetown. He says, I know. He says, I'm not. He says, I'm just not good enough to play at Georgetown. And I said, well, why don't you go to one of these other schools? You can play at one of these other schools. He says, yeah. He said, I had too many options, here at the school, so I didn't make it a priority, to be a basketball player. He was doing all these, he was interning, he was doing all these different things during the summers instead of focusing on basketball if he was going to play for the NBA. And so I teased him. I said, I thought you wanted to play in the NBA. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Hosh, he said, I no longer want to play in the NBA. He said, I want to own an NBA team now. That's what he said to me. and and I was like, oh my God. And it wasn't because of me. It was because of you. It was because of the supporters that gave Nick these scholarships. If it wasn't for the scholarships that you supported the students at this school, Nick would be thinking, oh, I need to be playing basketball on the weekends and I need to be doing this. I can't be interning. I got to work on my handles. And he wouldn't be seeing the opportunities that he was capable of doing by not playing for the NBA, but owning an NBA team. And I remember this one person reading this one quote, and the quote was, "You think Michael Jordan is rich? The guy that's writing Michael Jordan's checks, that guy is rich." And so I want to thank you for supporting all the Knicks that went through this school. And I want to ask you, we have a new class coming in, and I want to know if you will consider giving us a check for $10,000 to support another Nick at Verbum Day. Would you consider that? So that's the story, and that's the ask, and that's how you tell a story. You make the donor the hero, because if they weren't giving the money, Nick wouldn't be going to Georgetown. And so, by the way, just to give you information, Nick is now he's a writer for a show called Fire Country. I think it's on CBS. He's he's on his way to owning an NBA basketball team. So I just wanted to give you a little update on Nick. So next we want to talk about setting clear goals. So that's important. So these are SMART goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. It's important that you have these goals in place. I don't want to get too academic, but you need to understand what SMART goals are. So specific. So when I say you need to be specific, the S is you need to define what the money is for. Like, how much do you need? So we need $5,000, or we need $15,000. And so we need to say we need $15,000 to buy new computers for a youth program, or we need $10,000 for scholarships for Nick to go off to college. You need to use specific language so it's not, confusing, or if there's any ambiguity there. You need to be specific. And you need to be transparent with the goals, because you want to build trust with these particular donors. They need to be measurable. You need to say, okay, we want to bring in 10 or 15 new donors per quarter. And you want to be able to measure that. It has to be a metric or a number. Or you want to say, we need 50 new donors, and we need to raise $2,000 per week. We need to have whatever. They need to be specific so you can. And why do we want to measure these? We want to measure these because you need to know what's working, and you need to be able to make adjustments. There's a great saying: people measure what matters. Like, how much money is in your bank account, right? You measure that because that matters. And so you need to be that way when it comes to these specific goals. So that's important. Next, it needs to be achievable. You need to push a little bit. Like you don't want to be comfortable, but it needs to be a stretch goal, is what I like to ask people. And the way that you do this is you look at your history. How much money have you raised the last few years? And you add a little bit to that. You don't go crazy. So if you raised $500,000 last year, you don't say, okay, this year we're going to raise 2 million. You don't do that. You go, we did $500,000 last year. Let's look at raising 600,000 or 700, something that's a stretch but's reasonable. And the key point is it needs to be realistic and achievable. A lot of people say it's better to put an achievable goal and hit the goal than it is to put an unrealistic goal and fall short. I'm not so sure about that. I sometimes like to put a stretch goal and make people really stretch, and sometimes you go beyond what your achievable goal might be. So take that with a grain of salt, but just make sure it is achievable. I think that's the main thing. And then it needs to be relevant. I keep saying that it has to flow within the ministry of what it is you're doing. It has to align with the overall picture of what your ministry or your nonprofit is doing. That's key. It has to be a part of your bigger vision. So you want to make sure it matters to your mission. It has to be natural. You can't be an after school program or something and saying, oh, now we want to have a something that wouldn't sort of fit with an after school program. You'd say, we want to start doing, I don't know, what would be different for an after school program that would, we want to start a coffee shop next door that's going to feed the homeless. That doesn't necessarily flow with an after school program for youths. So you want to make sure it's matching up with what it is you're doing. There needs to be cohesiveness with your bigger picture, is the point that I'm trying to make. And then it needs to be time bound. And so notice when I said to the potential donor, would you consider a gift of $10,000 to support another NIC for the first quarter of this year? I gave them a time frame and put that. If you say, would you consider giving us a gift of $10,000 and leave it open? It's a little more challenging when when you didn't put a timeline on it. They may say, okay, we'll get you the 10,000, we'll get it to you. They may be thinking at the end of the year, you may need it now. So make sure you put in the time that you would like the gift to come in for. So for example, one thing that we like to do is put a time frame on a campaign. So a 30-day campaign. Or what we did for the gala that I was speaking about before, where we raised $125,000. It was a time frame. The gala was May 25th, I think it was, of this year. And so there was people knew that we needed to get this money in by that time. So there was a time frame for the amount. People could see the finish line. And so that motivates people to be much more prompt, to get you the money so you can get your goals and you can measure things. One of the things that my my past boss never understood was time bound. And so he would always say, okay, we need you to raise, $4 million this year. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll get 4 million. I feel like we can do it looking at our numbers. And he'd come to me maybe 7 or 8 months into the year. It's like, we need, money, what's going on? I said, yo, man, I said, you told me you needed $4 million this year. You didn't tell me you needed it now. And so I have until December 31st to get you that money. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to let your donors, as well as your supporters, as well as your fundraisers, know that you need this money and break it down when you need the money. So it needs to be time bound. And so this is an example of what a smart goal looks like. And so we want to increase the monthly recurring donations by 20% within the next 90 days by launching a targeted email campaign to existing donors. So it's specific. We're saying a recurring donation via email. It's measurable. We're saying by 20%. It's achievable because we've done that before. 20% is not a crazy number. So it's not undoable, not doable. And it's relevant. It's tied to the fundraising goals that we need, and it's time bound. It's 90 days. So this is your goals should look like that. So when someone comes to, so when I would go to my boss, I'd have everything on this goal except the time bound thing because it gave me flexibility. But you guys need to raise that money at a certain time. So make sure you include the T. Very important. So I've already sort of gave it away, but this is a success of a SMART goal. We needed to raise money for this gala, and I only put in youth services and food insecurities and affordable housing. I'm sorry, I did upgrade this, and we had 8 months to do it when we started fundraising for the gala. So everyone knew we needed to raise $125,000 in 8 months. It was very specific. We knew what the amount of money we wanted to raise for. And we knew it was student scholarships, it was food insecurities, it was affordable housing. We knew how much we wanted to raise. 125,000 is a concrete number. It was achievable, but it was definitely a stretch because the church had never done anything like this before. But we felt pretty confident that we could do it, and we squeaked it. I was very happy that we were able to do it, and it's relevant obviously because these are the programs that the church had going, and it was time bound. We needed to raise that money by the end of the gala that night. So this is an example that happened a month ago. Yeah, actually a month ago today, that we had a SMART goal success. So I don't want to just talk about academic things. I want to give you examples that are actually happening. So I also want to talk about a mini case for support that is essential for what it is that you need. And a mini case for support is just what it sounds like. It's a case for support that talks about the projects that you're fundraising for. It talks about what it is you're doing, the what, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for. It has a budget involved. It has a timeline involved. It has testimonials in it, and it has uh, testimonials as well as time budget. I think that's everything. So it has all those things in there, and it's a leave behind. It's a very powerful document that you use, and it takes a little bit of a minute to create one. We sort of helped our clients do that because you have to do an interview, you have to run it through. You want to make sure as I said before, you want to make sure that your stakeholders are on point with you. So we put together the drafts case for support. We interviewed 8 people, made some adjustments to the case for support, then interviewed another 25, and then made some more adjustments to the case for support. And so now it looks like what the organization wants to put forth in front of donors. And so the ideal use is you use it when you're doing a presentation with a donor, and you leave it when you walk away. And I want you to remember, it doesn't replace you. A lot of people think, oh, we can mail these out. You can't mail out a case for support. It has too much data in it. It has too much information in it. People aren't going to read it. And so you want it to be going along with you. So you have something. It's kind of like a presentation. You go through the case for support, and you're talking about what it is you're trying to do, and it has sort of the data, the budget, and all the things in it. And you can leave it behind. And donors, once you leave, after you do your presentation, you leave it behind. It's able to stand on its own, and they can call you if there's any questions. You can point them to some other areas in there that may not be in it because it's only like 4 or 5 pages in general. But the most important thing is it does not replace you. You have to remember that. You have it, you bring it along with you, and it supplements you, but it doesn't replace you. And, cases for support, I've raised, you know, tens of millions of dollars with cases of support. They're very powerful because you've done your homework. You're not just walking up to a person and say, hey, we need to raise some money. We don't know how much we need to raise, and we don't know where it's coming from. With the case of support, it has all your answers in there. It has all the things in there that you need. And if there isn't something in there, you can get it, because usually the case support is taken from something that's larger to put it all together to create the case for support. So it's a critical piece that you want to have. And I know that I'm throwing a lot at you, and I'm sorry about that, but we only have an hour, so I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. But I want you to know that we're here for you. So if you need some help, you want to sort of be pointed in direction. There's something specific that's happening at your church or your nonprofit. You can make the call to us, and we'll put that in the chat. And you go to our website. You sort of put in a little bit of information. We want to know who you are, where you work, so things like that. And there's no agenda to the call. I'm not going to try to sell you. I'm not going to try to push our products or whatever. I'm actually going to listen to you and give you some advice. And there might even be some people on this call that have called me from our previous um, webinars where I've given them advice, and I'm continuing to give them. I mean, it's limited because my team needs to eat, and I need to, go out and get sales, but I will help you. I will get you going in the right direction, because, I know it's probably hard for some of you guys to believe, but this is our mission. We're here so you guys keep doing what you're doing, because if you don't keep doing what you're doing, our race is lost. We need you. And we know, like, I'm not religious, I'm actually agnostic. But one thing that I do know, I would not be sitting in this chair if it wasn't for the Black church. That is a fact. And so it is my mission, it is my team's mission to make sure you guys have the things you need as much as we can provide you so that you're successful. So please remember that. So if you need some help, book the call. We'll talk to you. We'll try to get you going in the right direction. And if you feel like you do want to work with us, we'll talk to you about that as well. But we're here so you keep doing what you're doing, especially in this climate that we're dealing with right now with this current administration. The one thing I want you to understand is a really power. It took me a minute to figure this out, to understand it, I should say. I didn't figure it out. It was a while around, a lot longer than I was around. But it's the 80-20 rule. And I'm sure many of you guys understand what that is. But if you go back and look at your donations that you receive in your nonprofits and your churches, I guarantee you 20% of your donors and supporters are giving you 80% of your funding. Isn't that wild? And I guarantee you. So if you go back and look, 20% of your donors are giving you 80% of your funding. It's just the way things work out. It comes from the Pareto principle. Wilfred Pareto was an economist, and he sort of wanted to know where the funding was, who owned what in Italy. And so he started this research, and he found 20% of the people owned 80% of Italy. Turned out that principle is everywhere. That rule is everywhere. So I'm bringing this up to say, guess what? You need to only focus on 20% of your donors at the beginning. You can get to the rest of the 80 later, but if 20% of the people are giving you 80% of your funding, that's all you need to start with. And then as things go, you'll roll out to the others. But focus on your top 20%. Now, the art of the ask. The ask needs to be stated clearly. You need to share your passion. I'm sure you guys can feel my passion. You need to be able to do the same thing. You need to share your passion. You need to communicate it with confidence. You need to know and by doing the case for support, that gives you the confidence. You know the numbers. You know how many people are going to be served. You know why you need it. Because you've done the work. And you invite people to be a part of this. There's no pressure. We're not going to lock the doors, as they say. There's no pressure, because the way you deliver this, people are going to want to be a part of this. They're going to want to be a part of a winning team. And the biggest thing that I want you to remember is the ask is a specific amount to an individual, not to the congregation. You're not going to say, to the, I mean, you keep doing what you're doing in terms of tithes and offering. I don't want to take that away. But what I'm talking to you about today are major gifts, major and mid-level gifts. And so we're talking about asking individuals, one person or a couple, a wife or, a husband, a gift. And so you're going to ask them, would you consider a $10,000 gift for scholarships for the first semester for our youth program? Specific amount, time bound. That's what you need to do. So, effective fundraising is a clearly stated amount. You want to give them flexible options. You want to be able to, you can mail a check in, we take credit cards. You guys know about all that. And you want to also allow them to do monthly payments if that works for them. Um, but you want to be direct and transparent. Let them know where the money is going. And you want to communicate back to them. A bad ask, a good ask versus a bad ask is, we'd love you to be involved. I hear that all the time. You want to step up your game. You want to say, you've seen the impact. Can you commit to a $5,000 this quarter to help us expand to our second school? That's so much more compelling. They understand what you're asking for. You have a set number. You know when to come back to them. It's so much better. It just takes you up to another level. Next, you want to look at these elements, as I said: specific, purpose driven, time bound, direct, and confident. That's what you want to do. People are going to want to be a part of this because it's a winning team. You're winning. And so you want to engage your donors through personal connections as well. So you want to connect them based off of what they're interested in. So if someone was they majored in math, you want to make sure that you connect them to something that's in a STEM program. You want to link them to impact. So if they're giving, like with Nick, that's a huge impact. This person is going to go off and do great things to be an amazing contributor to his society. That's impact. And you want to make sure it creates a personal fulfillment. They're going to see Nick one day owning they're envisioning Nick. We had Nick send them letters to let them know what he's doing while he was off. It's amazing. They feel the personal fulfillment. And it's so much fun doing it. And so you want to express gratitude to the donor. You want to thank them for their time, whether they give to you or not. You want to thank them for their time, for hearing you out. You want to acknowledge, if they do give, that their partnership. You want to call them and thank them. A handwritten note goes a long way. There's a couple stories I want to tell you about a handwritten note, but I'll have to do it another time because I'm running a little late. You want to also highlight the impact of their support. Again, Nick is now working, in the industry he chose to work in, and he's actually, on a high profile TV show that's doing, I think they're in their fourth season. So he's doing very well. So you want to connect the donors, make sure that they see what's happening, that their support has done. Now, you want to handle objections with confidence. When someone says or asks you questions, or can I give the money towards this? Or listen to them. Don't be defensive. They're simply telling you, and this is not a sales tactic, they're actually telling you how you can ask them to support you. When they have a question, or they say, maybe not at this time, you say, that's great, that's okay. Can I come back to you in a couple months? Or they say, my kid is graduating next year. Right now, we're kind of locked up. That's okay. Come back to them next. They're letting you know, but you're establishing a relationship with them. And if they say, no, I'm really not interested in, I had a donor do that. I asked him to support a gala one time, and in fact, he was very upset. He thought that I misunderstood where his money should go. I didn't get defensive. I retreated. I then asked him, well, what are you interested in? And he told me he was interested in scholarships. He's now one of the school's biggest scholarship donors at the school. This was 14 years ago. I think he was going to walk away if we didn't listen to him, talk to him, and then get him to open up and then start putting things in front of him that he was interested in supporting. One of the things I want to talk about is the 5 second rule. This is a powerful book. I don't know if you've read it. It's really quite powerful. It allows you to overcome your fear of asking for a gift if you have that fear. And so what you do is when you're getting ready to ask someone for the gift, you just simply count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you ask. And I know it seems woo woo and all that other stuff, but what it does is it doesn't allow your brain to have that negative talk, internal talk, get you all scared, make you mess up the ask and all this other stuff because your brain can't do more than one thing consciously. So you're counting down. And so just try it. I've done it and it's amazing. And I've been doing fundraising for a long time. So I have no fear of fundraising. So what I did was I have a fear of talking to people I don't know. I know you don't believe me, but it's actually true. If I don't know you, I might not say anything to you unless I'm at a fundraising event. Then I do, I have to put on my fundraising. But if I have my choice, I probably won't say anything to you. So I use the 5 second rule for that. And so I work out a lot at a gym. And when I first started working out, I didn't know anybody there. I never talked to anybody. Like I said, I don't talk to people I don't really know. So I wanted to try Mel's. I'm one of those weirdos. I read a book and then I try it. Does this really work for me? So I tried it. And so I walked up to this individual right here. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Her name is Viviana. I saw her downstairs. I said, let me try this 5 second rule. So I counted down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next thing I knew, I was standing in front of her. She looked up at me. I just said, hi, my name is Paul. We work out in this spot every Tuesday and Thursday, and I don't even know your name. And she chuckled. She laughed and she said, you don't know this, but you're my workout buddy on Tuesday and Thursday. And we laughed. And then we became friends. And then I said, wow, this thing works. So I started doing it with all these other people in the gym. And this is us going on all these excursions from me starting off with the 5 second rule. And on July 25th, 20 of us are going salsa dancing. So I'm just letting you know the 5 second rule really, really works. Now, I also want you to check this book out. It's called You Owe You. And this brother the book is okay, but he talks about a couple things that really jumped out to me. And one of them is he says his name is Eric Thomas. He says you need to put yourself in miracle territory for possibilities to happen. And what he was saying was when you're comfortable and everything is nice, that's not miracle territory, and no miracles are going to happen. It's when you're out there risking it, putting on a gala that you've never done before, and you're asking people to support you, and you've never done, and you're fearful, and you're like, You're putting yourself in an uncomfortable, difficult, well researched, and well set up situation, but it's uncomfortable. And guess what? That's when miracles happen. And this is an example of the gala that we had. We put this on and they never did it before. It was a lot of work. And if you look here, this is actually probably the most famous mayor in the country. This is Mayor Bowser, Muriel Bowser in Washington, D.C. She stayed the whole night. She said to us, we go to these events all the time. This is one of the best events I've gone to. It was magical. We raised $125,000 and they've never done it before. And this would not have happened if we didn't put ourselves in miracle territory for miracles to happen. We went for it. And guess what? We did it. And we did it beautifully. They're the talk of the town. This church is the talk of the town because we did this. So just remember the 5 second rule, and putting yourself in miracle territory. You do those things, the sky is the limit. So again, I want to move into following up. You want to make sure you follow up because these are not just tickets for money. These are partners. These are people you're going to be working with. And the more you work with them, the more they're going to support you in the future. So just remember that. You want to nurture those relationships. You want to let them know. We send out thank yous. We hit our goal. We hit $125,000. Thank you. We're going to be able to send these many students to field trips in the summer. We're going to be able to feed this many people in the food bank. We're going to have these many programs in our affordable housing. We sent those letters out. And people are supporting us. So you want to be constantly communicating with them, giving them touch points, and you want to strengthen that donor relationship. And here is an example of doing this. There's a gentleman that we work with. He read an article about our school in the LA Times, and it moved him to give us a check of about $10,000. And so I reached out to him. I had him come down and visit the school, and I introduced him to our math department. He majored in engineering, and we didn't have an engineering department at the time, but it was high school, so we had a math department. And he got so involved and passionate about the math department. He writes a check for $40,000 as we're walking to the parking lot. And so I connected him with him. And then over time, we introduced him to some of the students. He was one of Nick's supporters. He supported Nick while Nick was at Vermont Day. He adopted, quote unquote, adopted Nick. By the end of it, he was giving us between $70,000 and $120,000, depending on the stock market, how it was doing every year. It was over $1 million by the time I left. And this is because I didn't treat him for the $10,000 and let him go away. I brought him into the family, and he realized he was a part of the success of that school. He moved away, 3, 4 years ago. He told me that he put us in his will. This is a millionaire. This all started from a $10,000 gift. So I'm telling you, think of these people as partners, people that are going to walk along with you on this path. And so I just want you to remember that. So I want you to take the step today. Think of 3 of your supporters that have supported you that you want to say thank you to. Reach out to them, write a thank you letter or something. Let them know you appreciate them. That's what we did with Doug. And set up a visit, a donor visit. In fact, you can combine these. Set up a visit to where you want to go out and meet one of your congregants and thank them for the years of support that they've given you. And I would highly encourage you to reach out to your top 20% of those donors, the ones that are giving you the most money. I would start there. And then prepare and ask. Ask someone for a gift. I showed you how to do it. Make it concise. Would you consider $250 to support something specific and a time bound? And let's do that this week. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to us. We'll put it in the chat. Give us a call. Let us know. We'll help you through it. Again, this is not a sales call. I'm trying to get you guys to be successful. And then one day you'll have the money to be able to support us. Or maybe you do already. I don't know. But I want you to be successful. Whether you work with us or work with someone else. We'll help you on the phone calls. Our time is limited. We can't be with you every time, but we will try to help you. Trust me, this is our mission because every mission is unique. And so some of you might need some personalized help. And so just ask us for help. Your success is our goal. Whether you work with us or not, we want you to be successful. We need you as a race. And so your impact starts now. I want you to leverage what you learned today. I want you to take action today. Start small. Believe and commit. And if you need us, ask for help. Now, this is what I'm going to send you today. You can send us an email. This is the case for support. All you need to do is a mini case for support. take our name off, find a project, put your name in those places, get some testimonials, and you have the blueprint for a case for support. And it'll help you in terms of your delivery when you're asking for support. And then we're also, as a bonus, we're going to give you an ask script. So it's how you make an ask. So it's going to be what you should say, what they say, what you should say, if there's an objection, how you respond to the objection, sort of those things to get you going in that direction. And if your ministry, as I said, um, can't wait, take the first step today. And if you need help, give us a call. We're here to help you. Um, we just want you to be successful. And what I'd like you to do is if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. I have probably about 5 minutes left. I actually less than that. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can find some questions here. Um, can this strategy be applied to churches built? Oh, yes, of course. This is Stephanie. Yes, definitely. It does very well to the church building fund. But the more tougher question is, can this be applied to your general operating, which is the hardest to raise money for? And yes, it can be applied to that. So if it can be applied to the building fund, it can certainly, I'm sorry, the opposite. If it can be applied to your general operating, it can certainly be applied to the building fund, because the general operating is more nebulous. It's the ugly stuff that you have to fundraise for. But yeah, it can apply to that. Let me see. Will you be emailing a copy of the recorded? I think we are. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Deborah answered that question. Deborah, see if there's any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions. I must be really good at this. I'm getting better, I think. Are there any questions that you guys would like to put in the chat before we go? I can't be that good. I know there's some questions. I'm going to give you a minute or two. One question we get. Okay, yeah. Feel free to unmute and ask the question as well, as Deborah said. Here's a question. My question, it was answered about ministry properly funding or bill. Okay. One question we get is what is the biggest challenge we run into when we're working with some of our clients? And one of them is our clients tend to have, or our potential clients tend to have, a scarcity mindset. And what I mean by that is they're focusing on, we don't have that much money, and so we can't do this. And what we want them to focus on is, but how much money can you get if you do this? Because one of the things when we were working with the annual report that we showed you early on, where we raised an additional $200,000 with them, they were in the red, I think, by $90,000. But they found a way, because they believed us. They found a way to come up with some funds to be able to support us helping them. And because if you do the research, it's 25 cents on the dollar across the board. So when you're paying a fundraiser in general, it costs 25 cents to raise a dollar. And you take that back to your finance committee and look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. What is the general? And that's what it has shown throughout America. So find a way to get past a scarcity mindset and look for abundance. Like, don't ask how much is this going to cost. I mean, ask that, but how much are we going to be in the black? How much are we going to raise if we get some help with this? Because at the end of the day, you cannot keep doing what you're doing. Tithes and offerings are not sustainable. It used to be in the past. Colleges and universities used to be able to support themselves based on tuition. I think USC raised $2 billion last year from donations. They know that they can't survive without them. You can't either. So really, whether you work with us, whether you work with someone else, you have to find professional help to get you into the modern fundraising so that your organizations and churches can continue. We need you. We absolutely need you. And so, if there's no more questions, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be a part of this, because it's our pleasure to, this is our way of giving back as much as we can to as large as the audience as we can. And please check us out on YouTube as well. We have lots of videos on YouTube where there's lessons. We're showing you how to put on a salon. Check out how to put on a salon. That's our secret weapon. That's a really good video, and it's a game changer. Um, and check out our website. We have a lot of blogs. We have a lot of information. And then at the end, reach out to us. We're here to help you. And it doesn't matter if you hire us. We're here to help you. You guys have to be successful. Our race depends on it. I love you all. Hopefully we'll see you next month. Keep up the good fight. We believe in you and we trust you. And let us know if we can help you with anything that you're working on. Be well, and we will see you next time. Take care.